Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guests are from Australia. Cathrin, Daniel, and Christoph Blickling join us as siblings to share their experience of growing up in an entrepreneurial family. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome the Blickling family.
Thank you, Trish.
You know, it's an absolute thrill. I know that we've been dealing with dates and trying to coordinate everybody's schedule, and I'm so glad that you're able to join us. Why don't we start with each of you sharing with our viewing and listening audience what type of businesses you own? Cathrin, why don't we start with you? Ladies first.
Okay. So I'm in the film industry. But I've also got an education program that develops a child's SEL, so social and emotional skills, as well as communication skills.
Perfect. And Daniel, what about yourself?
So I work in travel and tech. I started up a travel AI company, which is B2B focused. So helping existing tourism organizations utilize the latest in AI.
Wow, I can't wait to get into that. And Christoph, what do you do?
So I'm a musician, I'm a cellist.
Woo!
And so very different, quite contrasting. And my wife and I, we started a company that's an online education platform for children teaching music theory and oral training in an interactive and fun way.
So, if I'm not a musician in any way, shape, or form, and I go onto your platform, you'll teach me how to at least read music or something of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for people who have absolutely no understanding of music, who can go in there and they can start learning the music theory behind it. And it's usually quite a dry subject. So we've tried to make it in a very fun and engaging way.
Exactly. So I'm under the impression that you have a very dynamic entrepreneurial parents who you've grown up in an environment that with lots of outside the box thinking. Clearly, the three of you are in very different areas of expertise and equally as interesting as the next. So perhaps each of you can give me an idea as to what it was like growing up in an entrepreneurial family. And who's the entrepreneur? Is it mom or dad? Daniel, is it mom or dad? Who's the entrepreneur?
It's mostly dad. He has the crazy ideas and brings them to life. Having said that, my mom also has her own business, but I'd lean towards saying it's my dad.
Wow. So you've got two parents who've influenced your career choices. That's pretty awesome. Cathrin, tell me something about your dad that it really had made an impact on you and your career choice.
It's a good question. Firstly, I'd like to say I always said it was a blessing and a curse growing up with parents who always had their own business, because it sort of made we all had to end up in this area one way or another, I think, because of that freedom as well. But I would say for dad, look, I'm a storyteller and so is dad. And the big thing was really the imagination that everything is possible if you allow it to be possible. And therefore, there's always a solution, and just dream and as a result, make it happen.
Wow, that's pretty dynamic. Christoph, what about you? I'm assuming that is mom musically inclined or is dad musically inclined?
Both parents are music. They're passionate about music and they're extremely supportive. So as you can see, all three of us are in a very different field. And one thing both of our parents really encouraged us to follow our passion and follow our dream. So that's something both of them really, really supported, and they did not hold back there with what we wanted to do. They're like, yes, go for it. And if you have an idea, you just go for it. And that's something where very much, especially our father kind of said, look, if you have an idea, don't just talk about it, just do it, and you will learn along the way. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from that and taken out of it. We often have discussions with our parents about sort of different ideas, and getting an idea is probably the easiest part about it. But he would always say, yep, just do it, and you'll learn along the way. Yeah. So that's definitely something. So both of our parents didn't have the typical 9-to-5 job.
Right.
So we didn't have that kind of upbringing. I think we also very much had that roller coaster experience, which a lot of the entrepreneurial families do. So we know both aspects
Oh, that's
And we
amazing.
know what we got ourselves into by doing
Yes,
this.
exactly. And what about you, Daniel? What would be the thing that you think influenced you the most having two entrepreneurial parents?
To me, I like the idea of having something, an idea, and turning it into something like Christoph and Cathrin said. I find that very inspirational. And seeing my dad go from an idea and turn that into a business, I thought that was very impressive, and it was something I wanted to pursue as well. And I'm not a 9-to-5 person.
Right.
So I like the flexibility that comes with it, but at the same time, it's extremely hard work. So one of the biggest benefits for us has been the support we got from our parents along the way.
And are the three of you supportive of each other? Like, do you ever pick up the phone and say, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me this week, and try to get each other's support?
I like to
all
think
the
so.
time.
I see
All the time,
smiles all
actually, we
around,
talk.
so it must be yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I got into acting school, because Christoph was already a musician, and then I got into the acting school and decided to follow that path and not the law path, Daniel turned to me and said, right, now I have to become an engineer to get you and Christoph through life.
Well, there you go. Oh, I think it's fantastic. I love your reference to imagination. So give me an indication as to how you were able to encourage to use your imagination, because usually that's something that we only have till we get to school, right? The minute we get to kindergarten, that's gone. There's no more imagination. You have to start following the rules, follow the process, follow the instructions. So Daniel, give me an indication as to how in your home you were encouraged to nurture that imagination.
I was always a very hands-on person, and my parents always supported me, and my mom always drove us to doing extra things. We were a very, very creative house and pushed to try things. And I think that's helped us a lot. It's taken away a lot of the fear of trying something new.
Ah, that's really important. Christoph, what did your parents push you to try that you really didn't want, you were kind of apprehensive about?
I think they supported us in everything we wanted to do, and they did introduce us to areas we might not have been very passionate about, but there was never a sense of forcing us into anything particular. So a lot of the time, parents want to live their own personal dreams to their children, and I don't think that was the case with us. They very quickly saw each of our strengths, and they supported us in developing that passion in that area. And I think that's what both of them, they balanced each other out extremely well with that. They did really, really well. So our mom definitely grounded us in many ways. And our dad kind of very much kind of just...
Let you spread your wings.
Yeah, just go for it. Pardon?
Yeah. Spread your wings.
There's no limit to something. So he's very much focused in, look, the sky's the limit.
That's a really amazing thing. You've also... You were made what? Sorry?
Human.
I did wonder when you were going to bring that one up, Daniel.
This maths tutoring, which it helped, but I didn't enjoy it.
Say that again. What was it you didn't enjoy?
It was called QMON. It's this very repetitive maths tutoring.
Oh.
And to give you an idea, during the holidays, you get hundreds and hundreds of these booklets you have to fill out. And I barbecued mine.
Well, I would have to support you on that, because that does sound really super boring. So I think I would have been cheering you on if you barbecued yours, for sure. And what about you, Cathrin? Did you ever find that there was this difference between the boys and the girls in your house? Because clearly you've got two brothers and you're the only female. So did you find that there was any gender differences within your household?
Look, it's I'd say that one's an interesting one, because it always balanced out, especially being the middle child. So Daniel and I are very close in our age. So we, of course, grew up doing similar things, even though I always played with dolls, and Daniel is saying he was a hands-on person. His room was full of Lego and inventions. And yet, I sometimes went in there, I'd, played a little bit there, or sometimes, Daniel would come and, we'd do board games or, something else. And then Christoph, being the older, sometimes went and tagged along with him, because I wanted to be more with the older kids. So I don't don't think gender, it wasn't made into a thing, you know.
Isn't that
Everyone,
great?
as Christoph and Daniel said, we were always able to be ourselves and drive what we had a passion for. And it didn't matter, you know,
That's
what
really
gender. That said, I think the only reason Mum let me go to an all-girls school is because I had brothers, and so it was, you know, she did make sure that that was balanced out. But then also we had the farm, and the farm again, it got us all to be outdoors and be creative there together. So I never felt like the odd one out on that front. I think I learned to vocalize quickly because, you know, both my brothers were quite physical, and I was a lot more smaller, so I had to defend myself
Yeah,
somehow.
exactly. You had to step up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that I just want to mention that's very unusual is all three of you have lived in Europe, which is extremely unusual for a family of siblings, right? Usually you have one that's adventurous and sort of, you know, jumps out of the nest and away they go, you know, with their backpack between, you know, after school wanting to explore the world. But all three of you have been to Europe. So what was the interest? What drew you to leave Australia and move to Europe for a totally different experience? Christoph, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we're actually all born in Europe. We're all born in Germany. Yeah. And we moved to Australia permanently when I was 10. So before that, our parents were flying back and forward sort of between Germany and Australia. So we've got close relatives as well, family in Europe. And I think that drew us back to move there and study there. And as a family, we traveled quite a lot. And I think that sort of brought out that adventurous side of things as well, just seeing different cultures.
Mm-hmm. What a wonderful experience. I mean, as a family, being able to experience a different culture and actually live there really lends, I'm sure, to the imagination and creativity that you've all brought to your businesses, right?
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's we didn't grow up with, you know, travel being a boundary or only being something that you're older. I mean, it was always possible no matter what age. You know, we were sort of packed up and let's go on this adventure. And then when we go to a country, we explored the country, we explored the culture. We didn't just stay in a hotel or play it safe at all. And it was definitely I would say, a priority for our parents. So, you know, I have friends who always had new toys for Christmas. We wouldn't get that, but instead we'd go on a trip together.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's really fantastic. Now I have to ask the question, have mom and dad retired? Or are they still in the throes of coming up with these great ideas and exploring things, but in a different way? Daniel,
define retirement.
Yes, that's it. That's so true, right? So true. As an entrepreneur, are we ever really retired?
I don't think my dad's ever going to retire.
No?
I think he'll always, in some way, shape, or form, have his fingers in a few different pots and be involved in businesses. He tries to get involved in our businesses sometimes more than
How successful is that?
We're getting good with boundaries.
We take his advice on board. At the end of the day, he has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and that's something we take on board and we appreciate. But sometimes he's a little pushy of how he wants things to be done. He's very, very, very driven, and he's got this weird combination of being both stubborn and yet he can be flexible. So when he sets his mind to something, he will think about it and he will call you every single day and keep wanting you to do it his way. And that's also taught us a little bit of resilience to be able to stand up and say, look, sorry, Dad, I appreciate it, but no.
I gotta do it my way. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you had to describe a quality that you received from your parents and living in an entrepreneurial family that you've been able to carry into your own personal business and lifestyle, what would the quality be? So that it would obviously be something that you saw your parents do or demonstrate quite frequently. Christoph, what would be the quality that your parents demonstrated that you think that you've adopted into your own lifestyle?
I think it's there's always a solution. You just need to find it and think outside of the box, but there is always a way to get to where you want to go. So there's always a solution to something. You just need to work towards it, search it, and sometimes it just means thinking outside the box to get there.
Yeah. Cathrin, what about you?
I'd say two things. It's one is get up and go. Like you will have fallbacks, but by getting up and going, you learn from that fallback and then you end up thriving more. And I think that's a big one. And then the other thing that Dad and Mum always taught us, and I think this is a big one, is live life with an open hand. And that means, yes, sometimes you lose things, but that's also how things come to you.
Right. Oh, that's a really good one. And Daniel, what would you say has been your experience?
For me, it's all about not giving up. So if you have, I've worked on my site and my platform for years, and sometimes a lot of people expect things to be overnight successes, and it's just not how it is. They'll say, "Oh, when do you give up?" And I say, "Look, I've got a vision, and I'm going to achieve that vision. And I know people are going to tell me it's not going to work. You need to be thick-skinned because you're going to get a lot of rejection. And it's about persevering and constantly putting yourself out there."
That's a really good one. Now, Christoph, you mentioned that you and your wife have built this platform. So
Yes.
one of the qualities, you've had clearly a really wonderful upbringing with two parents that are entrepreneurial and have a wonderful imagination. Does your wife share your mission and vision?
She definitely does now. Yeah, it's she does quite often say now, if I knew how much work and money it would have taken, I'm not sure if I would have said yes 4 years ago. So
Right.
I had the idea, and we sat down and I discussed it with her, and she saw the value behind the idea and fully supported it. And we kind of set ourselves a goal and said, let's give it a go for a year. Let's invest a certain amount of money into it. And after a year, we'll see if it works. The issue was after a year, we definitely saw the potential behind it.
Right.
But the original budget we put in there and the timeline we put in there was so unrealistic. We've blown that exponentially.
Right.
But I still think it's an important step to create a timeline and create a budget.
Yeah, for sure.
But have the flexibility and knowing that it's probably not realistic when you first start off.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. Having a plan never hurts, right? At least it sets the stage for the future. Now, I'll leave it open to Daniel and Cathrin because I don't know if either one of you are married or have families. So have you, when you're looking for a spouse, because one of the things we all find is you have to have some common ground. And you've already mentioned, it's a hard road to be an entrepreneur, right? I mean, it's not like the steady Eddie job where you've got, every Friday you're going to get a paycheck. So there's a lot of uncertainty involved in being an entrepreneur. So how do you explore that when you're looking for a partner to participate? Do you want someone to participate in the business like your parents, or are you quite happy with someone else doing their own thing?
Do you want me to go first? I can go
Yeah,
first.
go first, Daniel.
So I am in a relationship, and my girlfriend's very supportive of me. She's got a 9-to-5 job. And I said, she's very supportive of me. She doesn't get overly involved. I'll ask her for advice, especially she works in banking, and she's very good with sort of presentations and pitch decks, and that's where I get her input. But I think she likes the stories that come out of it, the journey. But I did consulting earlier on, so that still brought some stability into the relationship. But I think she finds it exciting, and I couldn't imagine being with somebody where they don't at least value what you do and think, wow, and be supportive. Of course, sometimes you need to have an honest conversation, say, hey, look, this is tough. This is really tough. How do we get through this?
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's supportive, and that's what's important.
You know what? I love that you're looking at the partner that you've chosen has skills that you perhaps are not top of the list for you, perhaps, right? So they're able to fill in the gaps, which is a really wonderful thing. Cathrin, what about you? Do you find you're similar?
Look, I'm very lucky. I've got a partner who is so supportive, and I need that as well. But for me, the big thing is giving me the freedom to follow my passion, to follow my dreams, and to keep, being there. Look, he also owns his own business, so he's going through his own things as well. I think I've put it this way, I just published a children's book, and the first thing he did is he bought $400 worth of that book and put it in the garage. This is for the investment, So I couldn't have a more supportive partner.
Isn't that great?
It is hard though in regards to, and I've noticed this over the past, even before I was with Josh, is that I do not bring stability in regards to an income, especially because my background is the arts. So very different if my background had been, IT or had been something else. With the arts, you've always got that insecurity. You don't have the luscious life at the start. So the balance is a constant thing. But like Daniel said, I couldn't be with a partner where that would be an issue, because this is who I am.
Yes, exactly. Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we ask folks to share a word of advice. So it's usually 3 words of advice. So how wonderful that there's 3 of you. So I'm going to ask you each to give 1 word and maybe tell me a little bit as to why that word is important. So Cathrin, what would be your word?
I think let's go with the boys first.
You want to see what they say first?
Exactly.
Okay, so you pick the brother that goes first then.
Okay, Christoph, go for it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not easy. There's a lot of words that would fit into it, but I think for me, ultimately, there's one thing you definitely need, and if you don't have that, it's going to be very, very difficult to succeed. And that is, it doesn't matter what field you're in, you need passion in what you do. You need to have passion. You need to put in 110%. And it does mean sometimes, you're working at midnight, you're thinking about your project 24/7, and that can drive all the people around you crazy as well. But you need that passion, that drive for it.
Yeah, that's very true. Daniel, what would be your word?
Mine would be perseverance. You cannot, if you have a vision and you're trying to achieve it, you cannot give up. You have to keep putting yourself out there. I think it's very important when somebody criticizes your idea or your business, take it on board, listen, but don't take it to heart, and continue pushing for it. You will find people who will support you, and they're the people you want to surround yourself with.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Cathrin, you got your wish. We saved the best to last.
And it has to be a P word now, doesn't
it?
it?
Yes, it certainly does.
Exactly. We're sticking with the P for formula. Right. I'm going to say playful then. And for me, this is a big one. Play, have fun. And with play, it also means, yes, you will fall, but get back up and try different ways and enjoy the journey as much as you can.
That's so true. You know, what I love about our conversation is that you actually play off of each other. The things that you say and your attitude about entrepreneurship is really quite refreshing. And I think that your parents actually did a really wonderful job of introducing you to a lifestyle that you can not only enjoy, but gives you an opportunity to flourish. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing that personal experience that you had in being in an entrepreneurial family. So thank you so much for that.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah,
thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guests, you'll find their contact information in the description portion below. I'm Chirstoph, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.